Uh, Good evening, ladies and gentlemen and colleagues. My name is Councillor Tony Page and I'm Mayor of Reading and I chair these full council meetings. First of all, this evening I have a few announcements to make. Apologies for absence this evening have been received from Councillors Ennis, Magon, McElroy, O'Connell, White and Cresswell. Are there any further apologies? Nope. Councillor Emberson is joining us online. I think she's the only. Sorry? Is she? Right. Okay. Fine. I would then like to inform everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live on the internet and will be available for repeat viewing on the council's webcasting site. On the issue of retiring councillors, traditionally at this time of the year, we invite group leaders to say a few words about any retiring councillors from their group. I'm not aware that any of the opposition councillors are retiring, but I will look first to Councillor Brock and then I'll go round to the others. Councillor Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a few to go through. So Councillor Sue Kitchingham, who was first elected as a councillor for the new ward, as it was, of Caversham Heights in 2022. Now, to say that her election was unexpected is perhaps a slight understatement, and I recall the returning officer at the time advising a member of our group, who shall remain nameless, that he may wish to get a few Labour figures over to the relevant table for the declaration, only to be asked why on earth he would want to do that, although he didn't use the term why on earth. The penny did eventually drop. And since then, Sue has been a diligent and hard-working councillor, especially in her ward and on our licensing committee. She's worked hard to secure the election of a second Labour councillor in Caversham Heights in 2023 and will leave behind a legacy of mature, community-focused politics in her patch. And we shall all miss her endearing laugh and her calm composure. Likewise, Councillor Challenger was elected in Catesgrove in 2018 and secured re-election in 2022. And across those 6 years, he has been a grafter in his community and has pushed a great number of projects to fruition, quite especially around Catesgrove's parks and open spaces, as well as more than a few efforts to get troublesome corners of the ward cleaned up. And on the council, he has served as vice chair of the ACE committee and the planning applications committee. And in both roles, he worked hard to support the chair and ensure that those committees went from strength to strength. And I know he'll be missed by this group and by the community in Catesgrove. That's everybody of consequence, Mr. Mayor, but I should also refer to yourself. And it is hard for me to consider doing justice to yourself, Mr. Mayor, in a short couple of paragraphs, but you have already this year had the luxury of my fawning mayoral nomination speech, at least. But I marvel at how much you must have seen over the past 50 years on this council, and the legacy of your work can be found in every corner of this town. Achievements too long for me to possibly list now, but I do know you would have been keen for me to mention the establishment of Redibus and the maintenance of Reading Transport in municipal ownership as particular and well-deserved points of personal pride. But I should also mention your conscientious and unremitting work in your ward, latterly Abbey and formerly Castle. Residents are always full of praise for the myriad matters you've helped them with over the years, and your long service as deputy leader and lead councillor should be evidence enough of your commitment to public service. But I will also say now that you've been a very good mayor, and the chain gang of past mayors will be very fortunate to count you among their company. I've so much enjoyed seeing you enjoying the community events and promoting all of the good work in our town. Giants of your sort are a rare thing in local politics, Mr. Mayor, and Reading has been extremely lucky to have you. I'm sure you'll find plenty of passions and causes that firmly keep you in touch with the council's work, and I'm more than a little glad that I shan't be on the receiving end of a public question from you. But from the bottom of my heart and from the Labour group and party here in the town, and I think from the entire council too, I would say thank you. Thank you.
All right. That's very kind of you. I shall say a few words to reciprocate in respect of yourself in a minute, but I think it's probably timely just to invite any of the other group leaders or their substitutes, bearing in mind we're slightly light on one side. Councillor Mitchell, did you want to say a few words?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much indeed. Simply to say, I reflect and agree with everything that Councillor Brock has just said. In particular, Councillor Brock, we will miss you very much. In my short time, relatively short time as Conservative group leader, I've enjoyed our occasional sparring matches. I've always tried to keep up with your budget speech in terms of timing. Always a challenge, but enjoyable nonetheless. So I thank you for your good-humoured nature at times in our debates. Obviously, we disagree substantially at times, but in principle, we are all working towards a better Reading. And for that, I'm very grateful to you for all of your help and support over the last 18 months or so in my role. And we will be sorry to see you leave the council. And turning to you, Mr. Mayor, what can I say to add to what Councillor Brock has just said? You are nothing short of an institution in Reading. I'm not saying you should be in one, but nevertheless, you are a titan of the politics here. You have crafted and created the town as we know it, and we as a group are incredibly grateful to your commitment to public service over the years. It is an example to all of us in public office, even those most junior amongst us, and for that we'll be very grateful. And your mayoral year, again, as Councillor Brock has said, has been exemplary. So thank you for all your service. You will be a loss to Reading and very much a loss to the council. Thank you.
Blimey. I should can this. Councillor Williams, before I call Councillor Moore, I'm not too, Councillor Williams, I'm not too sure who, in the absence of Councillor White, do you want to? Oh, my apologies, Councillor Keane.
But we have no retiring councillors to praise this year.
Fine.
Thank you.
Okay. Did you want to say anything, Councillor Keane? I'm not fishing for compliments. It's purely optional. Okay, good. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just add to what's been said. I won't repeat. First of all, Councillor Kitchenham, as one of the 2022 intake, as many of us were when we joined in the All Ups. Sorry that you are going. It was really enjoyable to do such an induction and to have so many new faces on the council who were all learning together the ropes. And I've made good friendships with some of the new people who have come on board and have been learning together. So that's been really good. Councillor Brock, I knew you before you were a councillor, and you knew me before I was a councillor. We were both chairs of our respective local parties at the time, and I've always appreciated the time you've made for me for a natter or a chat or for cuddling the dog. And I was genuinely sad when I saw the announcement you were stepping down. But I hope we can go for a beer at some point and have a nice chat. Councillor Page, Mr. Mayor, when I first moved to Reading in 2009, I was not very into politics actually at the time. I was not a member of a political party, and I saw this person who was always in the news about Reading politics, and it was always Tony Page this, Tony Page that. I was like, who is this guy? And it was always the person in the paper, and I was like, he's like this big towering figure of Reading politics, and I started looking more into it. And you were almost this large in life character before I even came to be a councillor, but since I've been elected, you've become much more human, and I've appreciated that. And no, that's meant as a huge compliment, because you like Councillor Brock have made time for me, and you've spoken to me, and we chat outside of meetings, and I always know that if I ever need advice on something about something the council the history of the council, or just decisions made, or just subject matter expertise and all the things you've done, I know I can always ask you for it, even after you've gone. So I think, as Elizabeth said, all of you will be missed, because I feel like as public servants, we all put a lot into this, and you certainly have put in more than everyone else in your 50 years. So thank you.
What? Can I just wind up this session by thanking you all for those kind remarks? I wanted to say just a few remarks about Jason. Having helped out in the by-election, it's worth that saw him elected to the council on the 21st of July 2016. It's worth reflecting that those few months were a particularly turbulent time, because only a month earlier we'd had what some of us regarded as the truly disastrous Brexit referendum. And so the by-election came on the 21st of July. Some of us were about to go off on holiday. Anyway, Jason joined the planning committee and sat next to me at, I think, his first planning committee, and I'm told he actually enjoyed it. Yes, indeed. So he cut his teeth on planning, then became a lead member for, did we call it corporate resource or whatever, some corporate thingy. And then in 2019 was elected leader. And of course, when you were elected leader in 2019, a bit like the Prime Minister a few months later, we plunged into the unprecedented COVID crisis. And as deputy leader, I was certainly impressed with the assiduous and very dedicated work that you did during the COVID crisis. A lot of it, most of it, online in line with instructions, but you took to that challenge, and I think we will all be grateful as a local authority. I know that the then Chief Executive Peter Sloman was certainly impressed with your dedication and commitment during that very testing time, and I think Reading performed well, and their staff as well delivered the services that we rightly expect, but that they rose in an exemplary fashion, and your leadership during that time was much appreciated. I also have fond memories of some local government association conferences and certain events, which I won't regale the full council with, but I'm sure we'll reflect on those in future years. So I would like, on behalf of myself and the full council, to place on record my appreciation for your service, albeit too short, regrettable, and the only thought thing, yes. But thank you again for your time and service to the authority. Thank you. So I think just a couple of other brief things. I bring with me the greetings of the Mayor and Town Council of Clonmel, with whom I spent this weekend, and a beautifully sunny St Patrick's Day sandwiched between two massive monsoons. So St Patrick was certainly smiling on the town on Sunday. For those of you who haven't been to that area, it's extremely beautiful. It's very green, thanks to all the water, but well worth visiting. And the mayor has said that if any elected members do go over for holidays, then to let him know, and they will certainly offer you a Guinness, if nothing else. And then the final announcement is a personal announcement in respect of the half marathon on the 14th of April. The mayor will be participating, I emphasise participating, in the marathon. The intention will be to complete, not compete. And there is a mayoral team as well of council officers. You will be receiving an email inviting you to sponsor the old mayor as he hobbles round the course, and hopefully you will see fit to offer some sponsorship to me. And then just on a procedural note, I hope that all colleagues have been advised of the intention to propose the suspension of standing orders to allow an emergency resolution to be moved. That will happen effectively as item 9. Can I emphasise, particularly to new members, that the suspension of standing orders relates only to that element that allows the motion to be taken. All other elements of our standing orders, namely the length of speeches and all procedures associated with debate, will apply. So the suspension and the resolution will simply suspend that 6-day limit that would normally be required. So on that note, let us proceed. Declarations of interest. Councillor Cross.
On the advice of the monitoring officer, I'll be declaring an interest in the petition and leaving the chamber for that item.
Thank you. Minutes of the meeting held on the 27th of February. Can I sign them as a correct record? Good, thank you. Thank you. Which brings us on to item 4, which is the single petition this evening from Mamouna Naz about the lack of community activities at the D-Space Community Centre, and Councillor Brock will be responding to the petition. Ms Naz, would you like to press the button and proceed? You have 3 minutes, is it? Up to 3 minutes.
Thank you very much for allowing me to present this petition. My name is Mamouna Naz and I'm local resident of Northcote. We have a wonderful new community centre on D Park, which also includes the relocated Children's Centre. The Children's Centre, run by Reading Borough Council, is providing many services for the families with under 5s. Sadly, this is not the same at the community centre. While there have been some great one-off events, the centre is closed for most of the time. When the community centre was first planned, an amount of money was put aside to fund community development. Council officers and local councillors have been pushing Peabody to honour that commitment and get the community centre open regularly and offering the services that are needed. This petition shows how strongly the local residents feel, and we believe this needs to be escalated to the highest level in Peabody. We know that officers have been proactively approaching Peabody, but we need there to be pressure on senior people at Peabody. We should also make it clear that Peabody staff on the ground are doing a great job, but are expected to cover all areas of Reading. Quite simply, it will be difficult unless that funding is issued to proactively promote community involvement. I hope there will be a positive outcome. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your views and for your engagement. As indicated in the petition, the delivery and running of the D-Space Community Centre is a responsibility of Peabody Housing Association as part of the regeneration of D Park. The council is the freeholder of the land, but a 999-year lease is being finalised, which transfers the land and assets, including the community centre, to Peabody. The centre was opened in August 2023 and now includes the Rannicote Children's Centre in one part of the building. In the other parts of the building set aside for Peabody to deliver community engagement, there are only limited activities at present. Monthly housing advice surgeries are held for Peabody's tenants across the estate. The local youth club Grassroots has also recently opened every Thursday night for 11 to 16-year-olds. It is disappointing that since the completion of this fantastic facility, Peabody have failed to deliver more fully on their obligations to provide a range of activities for all members of the local community. The regeneration of D Park has always been about more than just the delivery of new homes, and Peabody's lack of progress towards delivering activities is of concern. In light of this, officers have instructed the regeneration lawyer to write to Peabody. The letter was sent on the 20th of February 2024, asking them to set out how they intend to fulfil their obligations to the community and to confirm the following: what progress has been made on developing a policy framework in connection with the use of the centre for the benefit of all residents, and how the £250,000 allocated to them to deliver activities at the community centre is being spent. The Housing Regeneration team is also working closely with Peabody to hold a community day in the summer, which will showcase the centre as a vital community hub. We will also be ensuring that as the plans for the centre move forward, there will be opportunities for residents to make their views known and to get involved in shaping the programme for the future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Naz, would you like to bring forward the petition, please? And Mr. Graham here will receive it on behalf. Good. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah. Proceed then. There are no questions from members of the public, which takes us on to the councillor questions, of which there are 3. The first is from Councillor Moore to Councillor Gittings. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Between now and 2025, most telephone providers will be moving their customers from old analog landlines over to new upgraded landline services using digital technology. The landline switchover has serious implications for adult social care due to the connectivity of telecare devices such as full monitors to the new line. Also, for vulnerable residents who may not have an internet connection or mobile phone, digital landlines cannot carry a power connection, so in the event of a power cut, they will not work. Can I please ask what Reading Borough Council is doing to be ready for the switchover in their services, and how they'll be helping residents to prepare for the changes as well? Thank you.
Councillor Gittings.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Councillor Moore, and apologies for the somewhat lengthy answer, but I think there's a lot of detail in there. As it relates to both people who draw on adult social care services and those residents deemed to be at higher risk, the response covers both elements. In relation to the council's responsibility towards residents who draw on adult social care services and access technology-enabled care, please note the following. Reading Borough Council is a partner in a Berkshire-wide community equipment service contract delivered by NRS Healthcare. NRS delivers the contract and manages the installation and maintenance of all our equipment and technology-enabled care devices. Since December 2021, Reading has been working with NRS Healthcare to ensure compliance with the new digital switchover guidance, which you referred to in your question. In February 2022, the Adult Social Care Tech team worked jointly with NRS Healthcare to undertake a vital piece of work to ensure that all residents who had previously been issued analog devices transitioned from analog to digital tech. The council and NRS have now migrated 337 out of 338 cases to digital tech to ensure that devices such as alarm systems are compatible with digital phone lines. The final migration will be completed by the end of March 2024. We're performing well compared to partners within the Berkshire Community Equipment Service contract. I think the figures can show you that. Since February 2022, RBC and NRS Healthcare have installed only digital tech into the homes of those accessing RBC services. In addition, all digital units installed by NRS have a 5-day backup battery in event of a power outage, which again I think referred to in your question. As part of the council's duty to provide information and advice under the Care Act 2014, Reading Adult Social Care will include information and resources on the RBC website, such as links to the local government association. As an example, the content on the LGA website is designed to raise awareness through social media of the switchover and its implications to people around those who use telecare services, whether that's a family member, neighbour, friend or client. There are links to a printable leaflet template with 2 versions designed to be printed and either sent directly to residents or available in community spaces for them to take away. There's also a step-by-step guidance on what digital switchover means for different people. For example, those with pendant alarms, and answers to the following question: what is a digital switchover or landline switch off? How will it affect me? What do I need to do? What to do in an emergency? It's also worth noting that telecom providers are aware of their responsibility towards high-risk customers and are implementing new measures to protect them. And actually, somebody from BT contacted the council today with some advice on this. In relation to the role the council plays to support Reading residents with the upgrade from analogue phone lines to digital technology, the following measures have been put in place. Council Digital Technology and Change team have been actively monitoring the landline switchover initiative for a duration exceeding 18 months. In March 2023, a project brief was formulated to navigate the impending BT and Virgin PSTN switch-offs. Substantial progress has been achieved in transferring Virgin Media services with collaborative efforts involving schools and their ICT departments to transition to alternative supplier. Currently, the project has entered its second phase for the remaining BT line. A proactive approach is underway for resolution by the end of March 2024, which is the deadline. We hope to have all circuits migrated by the end of December 2024. Sorry, to 2025 is the deadline. It's worth noting that although the complete switchover is targeted for 2025, the BT project may switch off circuits earlier than 2025. So there is a continuous need to be flexible and reactive to the BT programme of works. Finally, for the council's part, we recognise the part we can play in communicating these changes to the public and guiding them to the appropriate support, and we use every avenue we have available to achieve that. Specifically, in tandem with the publication of information on the RBC website mentioned earlier in this response, we plan to include information on the topic in the June and December issues of Your Reading and in the monthly email to residents.
Thank you, Councillor Gittings. Councillor Moore, have you got a supplementary?
No, thank you. Just say to Councillor Gittings, don't apologise for a long detailed answer. It's most welcome.
No, that's absolutely fine. I think it covers all the points.
Okay, let's move on then to Councillor Keane, who has a question to Councillor Rowland. Councillor Keane.
Microphone, there we go, sorry. Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A number of residents have contacted me recently, as I'm sure many of you have received similar concerns regarding the increase in graffiti, specifically tagging around our respective wards. Usually this is removed fairly promptly after reported through the wonderfully helpful Love Clean Streets app, which I'm sure we all are grateful. However, could the council update us on whether there are any preventative measures in place or any due to be in place that could reduce the occurrences in our town in the first instance?
Councillor Rowland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I thank Councillor Keane for her question about this issue that plagues our urban environment and frustrates us across all political parties. I am, however, aggrieved that you feel as if graffiti is increasing in the town anecdotally, when in fact the numbers reported to the council are spelling quite a different story. Over the past fiscal year, reports of graffiti across all wards have declined from 142 reports in April of 2023 to a low of 24 reports in February 2024, just this past month. Furthermore, the annual numbers are down overall across the borough, and reports of graffiti in Reading by ward are as follows. I won't repeat that, but you can read the totals there. The budget for graffiti removal is $150K per annum, and Reading Borough Council employ 3 times graffiti operatives in purpose-built specialized vehicles to tackle the issue across the borough. Preventing graffiti in the first instance, as you asked, would require movable surveillance measures to be put in place to second-guess activity that we do not have the budget for at this time. Catching those responsible is challenging, given the offense by nature is generally discreet. If residents have leads on prolific taggers, however, they are encouraged to contact the police or our council's ASB team. There are a range of actions that a RBC could take, including tenancy enforcement or the issuing of community protection notices to prolific offenders. It is worth stating that proactively, our approach and aim is to attack the broken window that graffiti creates as quickly as we can. Quick response is the best way to stop more graffiti. If the graffiti is not up long enough for people to see it, the person who did it will be less likely to do it again in that area. Removing graffiti quickly also stops areas from looking like no one cares about them. For properties that suffer from regular attacks of graffiti, we work with the owners or occupiers to help them protect their property by advising on the use of protective coatings or strategic planting of shrubs and bushes to restrict access to the site. Other target hardening options may be to improve lighting or install CCTV. Anti-graffiti paint doesn't stop the painting, the graffiti, but it does make it easier to get rid of. One of the most challenging areas to deal with is the persistent tagging on utility boxes. We are continuing to engage with utility companies meaningfully to ensure that they engage proactively with us on this issue. Unfortunately, utility companies are largely unresponsive, although we are continuing to seek best practice examples and engage those companies to work with us. Our current graffiti policy provides a free graffiti removal service to residents of up to 2 meters square after obtaining a disclaimer from the owner-occupier. There are some restrictions to this free service, such as it's visible from the public highway and not above head height. It is the acquiring these private permissions that sometimes cause the delays we see when graffiti isn't removed as quickly as we would like. Residents really can help with the use of the Love Clean Reading app to quickly report graffiti to the council. We rely on residents utilizing this method to help be the eyes and ears in our communities, and this tool is one of our best defenses. The app provides photographic detail of the graffiti along with a location plan, which is passed to the graffiti removal teams to remove quickly. Apart from the council removing reports of graffiti, we also have community cleanup kits, which are available to residents associations and community groups free of charge after completing our health and safety training course, so that those that wish to help may take a lead in keeping their area graffiti free. There is no doubt that whilst we have set reasonable resourcing aside to tackle this issue, that engagement and assistance from residents is always appreciated, and working together is our best defense to tackle this most insidious of issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland. Councillor Keane, have you got a supplementary?
Thank you for that, Councillor Rowland. It's a really comprehensive response. I would like to find out a little bit more about these figures, but I don't think necessarily this is the time to do it. Maybe we could sort of talk about after or another, another time. But thank you. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Keane. Which brings us on to the final question from Councillor Williams to Councillor Gittings. Councillor Williams.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I realise there's a heavy level of duplication here with question 1, but I'm grateful to Councillor Gittings for his answer. So I'll just cut the preamble on mine and read out the question mark bit. Does the lead councillor know how many residents in Reading will be affected by the landline switch off? What plans does the council have to inform and support our residents who rely on their landline phones as a lifeline? Thank you.
Councillor Gittings.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Williams and Councillor Moore for this question, because it raises awareness, which is obviously part of the point of the questions, and we're able to give really detailed answers. And there is, as you say, a degree of repetition. So while the primary responsibility rests with service providers, the council recognises its role during landline switch off, particularly in guarding citizens at higher risk towards other telephony providers such as BT and Virgin Media. We will be constantly monitoring developments to ensure that we engage with the public effectively using all the resources at our disposal. To date, officers have contacted the main telephony providers, BT and Virgin, to ask for numbers of people in Reading who this applies to, so we get the numbers. An update has also been sought on their schedule of managing the process and risk to residents. By the end of March 2024, the council's adult social care tech team and our equipment partner NRS Healthcare will have migrated all 338 service users. I think we've already done 337, who with monitored tech in place to digital system. This ensures that devices such as alarm systems are compatible with digital phone lines. Since February 2022, NRS Healthcare has issued only digitally monitored tech to RBC service users. In addition, all digital units installed by NRS have a 5-day backup battery in the event of a power outage. Over the next few months, officers will undertake the following external communication actions. Announcement with links to national guidance will be included in the next edition of the Council's Your Reading, which will be issued in June and again in December. Information and links to guidance will also be shared in the RBC monthly email newsletter. Adult social care staff who are likely to have the most contact with high-risk people in Reading will disseminate key messages. Advice provided externally by organisations such as Ofcom is for users to contact their telephony providers so this will be communicated to them or their families. This will all be supported by some internal communications with RBC staff within Team Reading emails and updated information on the RBC website.
Councillor Williams, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you. Just a brief one. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for both answers. We are awaiting updates from BT and Virgin on the number of people affected and on their schedule and how they're going to manage the process. When they get back to officers and to the lead member, is that something that will be reported through ACE, or is there a different way that members might find out?
Councillor Gittings.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and I've really spoken about awareness. So I'll take away, well, I'll take and have a think about that. I mean, this is obviously a formal question. You may not want to ask a question again at council about that, but we may do disseminate the information through ACE or through an email to councillors. I'll have a word with the comms team about that. Thanks though for your questions.
Thank you. That concludes questions from councillors, which moves us on to agenda item 7, which the establishment of a joint committee of the Berkshire Prosperity Board. Councillor Brock to move the resolution. Councillor Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, councillors across the chamber will be aware that the world changes around us, and one of the more profound shifts in recent years has been the government's decision to remove the sort of statutory powers and funding from local enterprise partnerships and move towards a model where the powers that were formerly exercised by local enterprise partnerships will be exercised by local authorities directly. So in our case here in Berkshire, of course, as a sort of county that is split between 6 small unitary authorities, it makes a lot of sense for us to look to collaborate as far as we possibly can, so that the exercise of these new powers is as effective as possible and delivers benefits for residents, reflecting the fact that Berkshire operates as a more or less coherent economic unit, whereas the unitary authorities have boundaries that are, at the very least, slightly arbitrary. So I don't think there's anything at all controversial about the proposal of establishing a joint committee to provide a proper governance framework, open and transparent, able to meet in public and take decisions in public as we move into that brave new world of exercising those powers formerly exercised by the LEP directly ourselves. I don't really have anything further to add, and I move the motion as printed, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brock. Councillor Terry.
Yeah, I second and reserve my right, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Moore, you have indicated.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I welcome this. I was meeting with Councillor Stephen Conway, the Liberal Democrat leader of Woking Borough Council, and Councillor Simon Werner, the Liberal Democrat leader of Windsor and Maidenhead Council, and they were telling me the virtues of the Berkshire Prosperity Board at length. So it would be wrong if I did not support it. I think it makes a lot of sense. We do not have a county council, and we're no longer have a LEP, and I think it makes a lot of sense for us to realise the economies of scale across Berkshire, especially as is mentioned in the report about us containing a lot of businesses, our own Silicon Valley, and actually be able to actually use that to our own benefit. I'm also especially pleased that the Berkshire leaders did not agree to pursue a directly elected mayor, which I think would have been a disaster. So thank you very much, and we support this.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Anybody else before I invite Councillor Terry? Do you want to exercise your?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to Councillor Moore for his comments. You would struggle, I suppose, to work out who the Liberal Democrat leader of West Berkshire is on a given day, but it's good that you've met the others. So no, and this is a process actually quite long in Genesis. Began before that sort of dramatic shift that occurred in Berkshire's political makeup in May 2023. So I'm not at all surprised to find that we have at least implicit cross-party political support around this. I do think there are some great opportunities for Berkshire moving forward, and I think it all relies on us taking the right kind of attitude into those new partnership working arrangements. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brock. Can I see all those in favour of the resolution? I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much, which takes us on to item 8, which is the review of polling districts and polling places, and Councillor Brock, you're moving this as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I think a relatively straightforward report, and colleagues across the chamber will be well versed in this by now, because I know that there's been a lot of engagement from councillors as the electoral services team have done the work around this review over time. So I'd just like to thank all of the efforts that have gone in from those staff, because it is not the easiest of undertakings. I think it's a very complex endeavour. We as councillors can, of course, be very, very demanding, always seeking the very most convenient arrangements that we possibly can to allow residents to get out and vote. And that's a good thing, isn't it? I mean, it's an important part of our democracy here in the town, that we try to make it as easy as possible for people to get out and vote. But since everybody will have seen it at great length, I don't really have too much to add again. So I move the motion as printed.
Thank you, Councillor Terry.
I second and reserve my right, Mr. Mayor.
Any takers for this? No. In which case, Councillor Terry, you do have a right to speak.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right. Councillor Brock, nothing to reply to. In which case, can I see all those in favour? Another unanimous. Mr. Putin would be proud of us. Right, let's move on then to item 9, which is the suspension of Standing Order 7 to allow the resolution to be moved. Councillor Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the motion as printed.
Councillor Terry.
I second and reserve my right.
Technically, this can be debated if anybody is opposed to this, but I don't see anybody. Can I see all those in favour of this resolution? That likewise is unanimous. Thank you very much, which then takes us on to item 10, which is the resolution. Can I just check everybody has a copy of the resolution? Good. Councillor Terry will be moving. Councillor Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, as this motion states, we've all been, I'm sure, acutely aware of the widespread discussions in the papers, on the telly, in social media, which reported and condemned the racist and misogynist statements that were made about Diane Abbott, but more importantly, about all Black women. And here on the council, we're represented in our town by 3 Black women, and they are directly affected by all the words and all the things that have been said. And as I go on to say in this motion, it's not been that long since we've had the murders of MPs. And to have someone using language of saying that they'll shoot somebody, to shoot an MP, to shoot a Black person, to shoot a Black woman, it affects all of us. It affects all of those in public service, particularly Black women in this case. But any racism, discrimination, misogyny just shouldn't be tolerated. And that language puts us at risk. It puts us all at risk. But in this case, as I've said, it particularly puts at risk our colleagues. And so other people are going to speak tonight, so I'm going to say much more than I've said in the motion here. But I think that it's right for the council to stand up and say that we are in solidarity with our colleagues and with all Black women in public service and all people. We want to see the widest representation of our communities, of our peoples. Why would anybody want to stand up and put themselves into public service when time and time again, not just on this occasion, but on many occasions, people are condemned for it, they suffer abuse, they are threatened with violence, they are attacked. They are physically attacked and, as I said, sometimes murdered. We have to put a stop to this. We have to say it's not okay. And so, Mr. Mayor, I move this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Terry. Councillor Griffith. Are you reserving at this stage or are you speaking now? Fine, carry on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Right Honourable Diane Abbott MP was the subject of horrific racist, misogynist and violent language, which we all heard about last week. It's shaken all of us. It shook me and scared me. Every black female councillor, black female MP, every black woman in public service in the UK is scared and angered by this. There are layers to us. There is what was said, which was disgusting, no other words, and from a donor to the party of government, shameful. There was how the House of Commons responded to it. Diane Abbott's voice was the only one I wanted to hear last Wednesday, and she stood 46 times in 35 minutes to speak and was denied. What utter disrespect for a serving MP of 37 consecutive years. I stand for her. And then there was how this poisonous language has been drip-fed into our political spaces and normalised into our society's language by the current government. I don't want to be afraid to carry out my duties because of the words of someone with this much hate. To say you would like to shoot someone to be shot is surely an incitement to violence, and we already know how devastating outcomes can be with the loss of Jo Cox, Sir David Amess, and I'm going to mention Stephen Timms, Labour MP for Newham North East, who survived a stabbing in 2010 when his assailant followed the words of an extremist. I worked with him long before he became an MP, that's why I mentioned him. We stand together as 3 black female councillors in unity with everyone in this chamber against racism and misogyny. It has no place in our politics or our society, and I appreciate your allyship. We stand with Diane Abbott. She blazed a trail for us. Without her, many of us might not have taken up public office. I owe her a debt of gratitude, and I fully support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Griffith. Councillor Dennis. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Dennis, sorry.
Well, Councillor Dennis did indicate first. Don't worry, you'll be cool.
I don't mind.
Well, Councillor Dennis, you did indicate.
Okay, I would forward then. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today we're presented with a crucial motion that speaks to the very heart of our values as a community. The motion to stand in solidarity with black women councillors is not merely a matter of political correctness or procedural formality. It is a fundamental affirmation of our commitment to justice, equality, and respect for all members of our society. I want to extend my gratitude to Councillor Azari, Griffiths, and Mapufu Coles, Amma, Wendy, and Alice for their bravery in bringing this matter to our attention. Their courage serves as a beacon of inspiration for us all. Additionally, I must acknowledge Councillor Terry for her invaluable support in getting this motion before us today. The incident involving Frank Hester's reprehensible remarks about Diane Abbott is a stark reminder of the persistent scourge of racism and misogyny that continues to afflict our society. His words were not just an attack on one individual, but a deplorable assault on the dignity and humanity of all black women. Such a vile rhetoric has no place in our discourse, let alone within the corridors of power. As representatives of a very diverse and inclusive community in Reading, it is incumbent upon us to unequivocally denounce such bigotry and stand in unwavering solidarity with those who are targeted by it. By supporting this motion, we reaffirm our commitment to combating racism, discrimination, and misogyny in all their forms. Furthermore, we recognise that the importance of diversity in public life. Our council must reflect the rich tapestry of experiences and perspectives that comprise our community. Encouraging greater participation from Black women and individuals from minority communities is just a matter of fairness. It is essential for the vibrancy and strength of our democracy. In conclusion, let us send a resounding message that hatred and intolerance will not be tolerated within our midst. Let us stand shoulder to shoulder with our Black women councillors and all of those who face discrimination, knowing that together we are stronger. I urge all of my fellow councillors to wholeheartedly support this motion and demonstrate our unwavering commitment to justice, equality and solidarity. Thank you.
Councillor Mafufo-Coles, do you want to speak now? Then I've got Councillor Azari and then Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Right Honourable Diana Abbott is Britain's longest serving Black MP and has served her country for 37 with constant abuse. Let me break it down. 37 years, which perpetual misogyny, which equates to trauma daily in office. Imagine we're living with that and still being able to function and represent your constituents and country. So many of us don't understand the multifaceted experience of Black women and their intersectionality. Being Black, racialized, gender discrimination, misogyny, social class, essentialized how they are viewed in society. As a Black woman, it is a daily occurrence for me, even in office. Racism, and you become numb. The microaggression, invalidation, and stereotypes. Angry Black woman, picked on every tiny thing that you do, you say, you write. Not welcome in spaces. Your intellect is not even good enough. Your hair, your body, your clothes, everything is scrutinized. It's exhausting and it's traumatic. I somehow relate to what Diana Abbott is going through, even though mine is not at that scale. I always choose to serve the community, and I made that choice myself. I didn't have to have a choice about the color of my skin to be effective in service as a councillor. The Tory donor Frank Hester had a choice to be not racist, derogative, and misogynistic, but he made it clear about what racism means to him to have Diana Abbott shot and hate all Black women. I'll peel this further. Sadly, it makes me emotional as I have young adult daughters. Frank Hester owns a multi-million company, and I just want members to think about how he runs his company and who he employs in this company when Black people struggle with getting employment. What kind of ideology runs through his company? Institutionalized racism is an insidious disease. Services are withheld from Black people, leaving them struggling unequal in society. There is no but in this. This was racism. As we saw the Prime Minister Sunak toggling his fingers for 24 hours before he decided to call it out as racism. Bankrolling racism to the tune of £10 million instrumentalizes racism, full stop. These innuendos of non-accountability about racism has filtered into society for hundreds of years. And when the highest office in the country is unable to see, or let's say, prefer to ignore racism, it has a great impact. We witness also said Lindsay Hoy 46 times unable to call Diana Abbott to speak. I'm standing because that's what I want to say, a message that we need to speak out. Something that is familiar to many women, not me alone as a Black woman in public services or different spaces. The invalidation and silencing of her voice is perpetuated in the House. It was perpetuated in the House of Commons, but it is perpetuated in most places that we see in daily lives of Black women. That day, it filtered into our society again. Audre Lorde, one of my favorite writers, writes, "The master's tool will never dismantle the master's house." We are in the 21st century in a global society. And I would like to urge and ask members in this chamber to be allies, not only to support this motion, but to be allies, calling effectively out racism and discrimination as it is insidious and causes trauma, and supporting our communities to thrive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Asari.
Can everyone hear me? I was 8 years old when the Right Honourable Diane Abbott was elected in 1987. To see both the first Black woman elected to Parliament and the longest serving Black MP is in itself remarkable, and is a woman that I have always admired. Diane Abbott was active as one of the members of the Labour Party Black sections, which was established in 1983. Its aims were campaigning against racism, demanding political representation of Black and Asian members, and establish a group in the party, principles and values that she still, no doubt, truly believes in. Diane has been a trailblazer as a Black MP, and her guidance paved the path for other Black women, including myself, to engage and feel included in politics. Her unwavering dedication and commitment have proven invaluable, and that is to be applauded. It has been a difficult time, week, days, seconds, months for all Black women, as this incident has reignited grief, negative past experiences, fear of how we might get treated to, fear of lack of support and allyship, and many more. It is clear that the enormity and impact to the victim is often underestimated. Is this because people can only truly emphasize with something they have experienced? The words allegedly used by Frank Hester, a donor who has given 10 million to the Conservative Party, that Miss Abbott made him want to hate all Black women and that she should be shot, is very disturbing and personally very hurtful. Diana suffered more abuse than any other MP, which are racist and misogynistic and should not be tolerated in our society. The lack of immediate intervention and the plea for the incident to be forgiven and forgotten was not assuring of how Britain responds to racism. We need to continue to protest against the rise of racism and hatred and unite against all forms of racism. As many Black people can testify, it's not just a racist incident that is hard to ensure, it is the institutional, systematic and structural racism that follows it, which has in fact silenced women by those in positions of power. I am grateful for the solidarity that we have received from the Reading Labour Group. It means and shows that none of us Black female councillors have to ever go through something like this again without the emotional support of the Reading Labour Group. Their kind words, reflections, thoughts, and words of encouragement to the extent of agreeing to get this motion heard today at council meeting is very touching and commendable. I will, as a Black woman, continue to speak out against all forms of racism, discrimination, and microaggression that attack us and make us feel hurt, so that our voices can continue to be heard. I stand with Diane when I end by saying what others say to us has more to do with them than to do with us. And I hope that this motion gets supported. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to say on behalf of the Liberal Democrats, welcome the opportunity to support this motion today. And I'd like to thank Councillor Terry and all our colleagues, especially our Black female colleagues, for speaking so movingly. They're right, there should be no place for racism misogyny and discrimination in our public life and in our society as a whole. Words matter. If anybody doubted that, they only needed to listen to what 3 of our colleagues have just said this evening. Words demoralise, they discourage, and they create the atmosphere in which action is taken. What we need is debate, support, and to listen to our colleagues. We need debate, not hate, as the Local Government Association says and has a campaign running at the moment. Because without respectful debate, people are not going to come forward to take part in our politics. We're not going to be able to represent our town the way we should be. And so I just want to say that we would like to be allies to our Black women colleagues. We are ready to support you and also to call out racism or misogyny whenever or wherever we see it in our town or in our parties or wherever it may be. And simply to say, please do come to us or tell us if you think there's something we should be doing and we're not doing, because we do want to support you and we do want to help create a better atmosphere in our political life. So thank you for your motion.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gittani and then Councillor McGoldrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to associate myself with the remarks made this evening, particularly those made by Councillor Griffith, Councillor Calls and Councillor Asari. I will just make 3 points. Firstly, the comments made by Frank Hester were abhorrent, and his failure to apologise properly undermines his credibility and all those who continue to associate with him. Secondly, Diane Abbott has suffered appalling abuse, the worst faced by any MP in Parliament. But she is just the most prominent example, the most prominent Black woman. And women everywhere, ethnic minorities everywhere, and indeed everyone in public life can and often do suffer appalling abuse. It is not acceptable. It is incumbent on all of us to call it out always and stand in solidarity, at least with the very principle of diversity of political views. And thirdly, I've been reflecting on why this episode has affected us so much and why it's necessary for us to stand up and debate this motion and hopefully support it. And I reflect on my own experience as the son of immigrants, a man from Sudan, a woman from Kenya, and my longer-standing Indian heritage. And I'm keenly aware of the precariousness of being a visible outsider and the risks that that poses. But I'm also very aware of the many kindnesses that have made me feel that I belong just as much as my brothers and sisters here, as well as anyone else. And this hurts because it is not who we are. It strikes at our identity. This is my maiden speech, and I'm so very grateful to the residents of Caversham Heights who voted for me, because of what I could offer them without considering my background or heritage. I'm not honestly sure that it actually crossed any of their minds, and that's as it should be. I'm also very grateful, actually, that it was never an issue with any of the other parties in the campaign. And again, I don't know that it would have crossed any of their minds. My predecessor, Paul Carnell, was a Conservative and we would have disagreed on policy, but he was committed to supporting his local community and did so assiduously. I am doing the same and I will continue to do so because we are, all of us, better than this. So I am here to stand and say that this rot has no place in our town, and I urge all councillors to vote for the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Gittani. Councillor McGoldrick, then Councillor Eden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will speak very briefly, and I speak in support of my sisters, and I am so incredibly proud to be able to call you colleagues. And I know how tiring it is to be a woman in public life, and I cannot imagine how tiring it is to be a Black woman in public life. And while your strength this evening has been on display for all of us to see, I know that you take that same strength into everything that you do, every time you walk into a meeting, every time you go to a public event, and every time you speak to your residents. And we are so grateful to you for that strength and for the inspiring public service that you show our residents in our town. The reason I'm speaking is because I believe that anti-racism is not something that you say, it is something that you do, and it is incumbent upon all of us to show up. And there was an attack on Black women in public life, and it is incumbent upon all of us to show up. And therefore, I hope that we receive unanimous support for this motion, because I believe it deserves absolutely nothing less than that. And I think we must reflect on the fact that this was not some drone in a pub that we can all ignore. This was a man who is bankrolling the government of our day, and leaflets will go through letterboxes paid for by this money. And while the Conservative nationally may be content to roll around in the sewer, I know that the residents of Reading and the public servants of Reading will not get in that sewer with them. So we must send a very clear and united message from this place, because I was struck when we all spoke about retiring councillors. We all spoke about public service. We did not speak about public sacrifice. We did not speak about the toll that it must take to be a servant of this town. And that is the message that we have to send from here, because there are our teachers, our community leaders, there are so many Black women in public life in Reading, and they must know that this chamber is somewhere for them. And so I hope that anyone in this chamber knows that they can support this, and this goes beyond public lines. And I really want to thank again my colleagues for giving us the opportunity to send that message tonight.
Councillor Eden, then Councillor Keane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before deciding to speak tonight, I asked the Black women on the council, my sisters, my friends, how they felt about allies speaking up and standing with them. I'm sure all of us were disgusted by the comments that surfaced last week, but as a white woman, I wanted to listen first to the voices of those affected by this racism, and also, as my comrades just said, not stay silent. And that's why this motion is so important, and it's so important we speak with one voice as councillors on this issue. As others have already said, many of us, myself included, have been the subject of targeted harassment as the result of our elected roles. I'm sure I'm not the only one to be grateful to the police for the support they've given me. However, this is less frequent, and I hate to use the word mild, but it is mild compared with what Black women in public life too often experience. Very often we don't talk about this, even amongst ourselves as politicians, and certainly not publicly. And this is often from the best of intentions, whether wanting to focus things on the amazing work that Black women politicians are doing in representing our community, or the fear of putting people off from getting involved in politics. But it is the silence of our friends, not just the words of our enemies, that are damaging. We have heard from our Black women councillors the impact that the last week and a bit has had on them, and let's face it, many more months and years too. These are strong and powerful women who are councillors, who are leaders. They are strong and face up to this every day and represent our community. But we cannot leave them to stand alone. And that's why it's so important and necessary that all of us stand with them in solidarity with Black women in elected office, or those who nominate and seek elected office in the coming months. This latest attack on Diane Abbott, as it has been so often, has had nothing to do with her ideology or a disagreement with her politics. It was an attack on her as a Black woman and on all Black women. I'm sure we all felt revulsion when we heard those comments emerge. For me, it was combined with shock. Of course, it was not the shock that such views exist. We all know that anti-Black racism and misogyny are a daily reality for Black women, especially when they achieve elected office. But despite this, I was shocked that this could be tolerated or defended even for a moment within a mainstream political party. It was a sign of just how far our politics has fallen below what we naturally expect British society to be. The minimum we should expect is that our political parties should have no tolerance for racism, misogyny, and especially in this most extreme form, which was an incitement to violence. As a small step, I hope we are tonight as a council in unity. If we all vote for this motion, we are saying that Reading does not support misogyny and racism, and committing that our local politics will not descend to that gutter level. We are giving support to our colleagues who have been deeply hurt. We may, and we will continue to disagree vehemently across the political parties, and even at times within our own political parties. But we stand with each other's legitimacy and right to be heard and to serve our community without fear, without abuse, and especially without being the subject of anti-Black racism or misogyny. Mr. Mayor, we stand in solidarity with our Black sisters.
Councillor Keane and then Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. It seems very odd that we're having this discussion in 2024, but there you go. Us Greens wholeheartedly support this motion and agree that women are treated appallingly in public life, and for some reason this misogyny is still seen as acceptable, and absolutely it should not be. It is abhorrent that anyone should be threatened because of their race or gender in the way that Diane Abbott has been, and everyone should be able to go about their daily life without being abused, harassed or targeted, regardless of their identity. It is appalling that a donor to a political party can utter such appalling hate speech, especially as those words were uttered not that long after Jo Cox's assassination. And I know that there are many of us here who remember that dreadful time really well, when we all stood together in Forbury Gardens, regardless of our political differences, and we shared our thoughts, our sadness and our horror in defiance against that appalling crime. This motion has come at a particularly significant time as the local elections beckon, and hopefully a general election is held sooner rather than later. It's paramount that all our candidates, supporters, volunteers, etc., and everyone involved can go about campaigning without fear of intimidation, let alone the threat of violence. And we must always stand together on this issue. I send solidarity to all our Black female councillors. You have our support.
Councillor Robinson and then Councillor Hacker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to begin by thanking Councillor Terry for proposing this urgent motion to Council this evening. We are in full agreement with the sentiments of this motion and will, of course, give this our full support. Racism, discrimination and misogyny are wrong on any level and should not be tolerated in any civilized society, and we stand together in our condemnation of these. In a way, I would like to associate myself with all the comments that have been made this evening and disassociate myself from the comments that were reportedly made back in 2019 by Frank Hester. They were not only inappropriate, they were not only unacceptable, they were abhorrent and they were repulsive. In the motion, we also mentioned about the risks that people face in the public service. And it was mentioned about the sad loss of the two MPs, Jo Cox and Sir David Amess, both murdered by those with extreme views and opposed to the politics or beliefs. Any comments, in my opinion, that could be used to incite hatred, harassment and violence are abhorrible. In today's climate, we have seen threats of violence, death threats and harassment to many in public life, leading to many wishing to step down from public service. And this is intolerable. I certainly have full backing for this motion and I hope that all councillors will do the same. Thank you.
Councillor Hacker, then Councillor Tarr, and then Councillor Laing, and then I'll call Councillor Terry to reply. Councillor Hacker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm really pleased to hear the words of support throughout the council this evening for Black women in politics, and I stand in solidarity with Diane Abbott, with Wendy, Alice and Amma and those who will follow them. But I think we need to have a really honest conversation about allyship. Allyship does not finish and end in this room. Once we leave this, hopefully with a motion that's been accepted by everybody, it's up to us, every single one of us, to call out racism whenever we see it. A lot of us have said, oh, I'm sure the people of Reading do this, and I'm sure the people of Reading do that. But you don't have to spend many more than 5 minutes on Facebook or Twitter to see racism and misogyny alive and well in our community and across the UK. And let's not even start looking at across the Atlantic Ocean into America. We seem to also have forgotten, and it's not something that I have let fade from my memory, is that the previous MP, Boris Johnson, used racist, misogynistic and Islamophobic tropes and stereotypes. And he was never really held to account for that. It's sort of brushed off. Oh, he's such a silly man. Oh, he's such a fun guy, Boris, Boris, Boris. But in reality, those words stick and those words empower people to act on them. There's a phrase that many of us would have heard as children, and it's probably one of the earliest lies you'll ever be told. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I've never heard such a complete load of rubbish in my life. Words hurt. They hurt the individual, they hurt the community, they incite violence, they incite physical violence. So I urge every single one of us in this room, after this motion has been passed, to be active in our communities, be allies to the Black population, be allies to any minority people in Reading and beyond. I just quickly looked up the Thames Valley Police stats just to see how things are going. And I saw that there was a 41% increase in racially or religiously aggravated crime. And this is happening because people have been empowered by others using careless words, words of hate, words of prejudice. So I urge every single one of us not just to be an ally today, but be an ally tomorrow and for the rest of our lives, and those of us with children to ensure they grow up to be allies as well. We cannot accept the UK to be heading down the drain as it currently seems to be doing at the moment. We need to ensure that this country is safe and welcoming to everybody, regardless of your skin colour, your religion, or whichever part of the world you come from. The diversity in this town strengthens us and should be celebrated. And as somebody who represents one of the most diverse wards in the town, and as we all are one of the most diverse towns in Berkshire, we should celebrate this. But make sure we go out and we challenge it when we hear it. Don't just brush it off. If people have it brushed off, they feel they can repeat it over and over again. So of course I'll support this motion, and I will stand in solidarity with all my friends of colour, of different religions, but I will do that every single day and not just this evening.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hacker. Councillor Terrar.
This was very shocking, hurt and painful and shocking what happened. I stand with Diana Abbott. I stand with my Black sisters, my Black fellow councillors, and really support this motion. And I hope everybody is supporting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And quite powerful, moving words from Wendy, Emma and Alice and everybody else. I hadn't written a speech tonight. It was important for me that those most affected by misogyny and racism had their voices, but the time for silence is over and past. Misogyny and racism has become endemic. It's coming out of places that we didn't see it coming out of before. It's Councillor Hacker mentions even on Facebook, you know, we need to call out these clowns that push this language, and even if it is, as Finn said, the drone in the pub, then maybe we should start confronting. I mean, things that we used to take as normal when we were out on the streets with my councillor colleague, and on certain occasions we've had to call out resident, you know, and I'd run of the mill just to like get a bit mouthy, and no, call it out whenever we can. So I stand in solidarity and allyship, and no more. We can't allow this to continue. It affects all of us and will impact all of us, our children, our grandchildren. So we need to get on top of it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ling. Councillor Terry to wind up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to particularly thank Councillor Griffith, Councillor Mafofo-Coles and Councillor Asari, who spoke very powerfully. And actually, I don't really think I need to say very much more. I think we heard from Black women speaking up, being allowed to speak up in this chamber. It's a really important, powerful message that we're sending out, that we stand in solidarity, that they will be heard, that we want diversity in our public life, and we want to send a message to all of our people and all of the communities in Reading that this is a safe place to be and a safe place to stand in public service. So, Mr. Mayor, I think rather than say any more, I'd just like to finally move the motion and hope we'll go to a vote. Oh, I should thank everyone for their support across the chamber.
Thank you, Councillor Terry. Can I see all those in favour of the resolution? I think that's unanimous. Thank you all very much. And can I say how impressed I think we all have been with the quality and range of the speeches this evening, which I think has done the council enormous credit. Thank you. And on that note, I draw the meeting to a close. Thank you very much.